In honor of 1990s era Samuel L. Jackson, I decided to bust out my Kango for this review. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
This is our post-Geekout reaction of Captain Marvel. Do you have much experience with this character, aside from owning the shirt about her?
I've read, maybe a few issues. I remember you letting me borrow some.
Yeah, you're more familiar with Kamala Khan, with Miss Marvel. But yeah, you did read a couple of them. I'm a pretty long-time fan of this character.
Yeah.
So I was really looking forward to this one. And I remember I kept getting bugged that this thing kept getting pushed back and back. Like, it got pushed back once for the Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then it got pushed back again when they decided to make a sequel to Ant-Man and Wasp. I was like, all right, Spider-Man, it's Marvel's biggest guy. I can understand him pushing her back. You're pushing her back for Ant-Man and Wasp? What? Why on earth is that happening? And then it came out today on International Women's Day. I was like, actually, you know what? Kind of brilliant. Kind of all lined up on that one. So yeah, this actually worked out. But I gotta say, after watching this, I'm really glad it got pushed back until it was the film right before Endgame. Because it felt weird going into this, that this was the movie right before Endgame. Because I know that Captain Marvel was supposed to come in and be like, oh, she's the one who's going to help him take down Thanos. Which does feel a little bit weird to me that the character is going to help take down Thanos as a character we just met right before it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little Deus Ex Machina to me. However, watching this film, it makes such perfect sense. Watching this film, it really does feel like, oh, this entire movie is every missing puzzle piece from the entire history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe all being put together in here. So I freaking love that they had this come out right before Endgame. It feels like Endgame is the big finale, so before we get to that, here's every little tiny detail that you need to know to fill in everything to give even more emotional impact to what you have going into that. Like, you know, when we went into Infinity War, there was all that emotional impact because, oh, I know these characters and I've followed them through all these movies. It felt like going into this film, they're like, all right, let's make sure that we load Captain Marvel up with even more importance, even more emotional impact for the stuff going in there. Because, you know, when you go into the big finale to everything that these movies have been leading towards, everything that you have seen is going to come back to you as you watch it. So this entire movie really did kind of feel to me like they were just going back and giving even more weight and even more connection to every little thing in the story that we've been seeing in all these. Like, you get so much more story on the Kree and on Ronan and all of them and how they tie into Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. And then there's another thing in here that I'm not going to spoil, but when it popped up, I went, oh shoot, that was actually kind of a big deal. And now we know how that got from here over to here, so that's kind of a big deal. There's like one moment in here in which Captain Marvel, like, we're not going to get into spoilery stuff on this, but this isn't that big of a spoiler. It's where she finds this ship, and I looked at it and went, that kind of looks like the Quinjets, like an older version of the Quinjets, and then later on they call it the Quad Jet. Quinn is like 5,
yeah,
Quad is 4. Oh, okay, all right. Oh, I get it. Okay, so that's another little thing in there. And yeah, we all know that Samuel L. Jackson is in here playing Nick Fury before he becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this entire movie is him just going, oh shoot, there's like superpowered people out there, and maybe we need a defense thing against this, and I'm kind of learning more about this. So it's all basically just setting up even more importance to the Avengers in here. Mm-hmm. And I love that about this film. Were you about to say something?
I was gonna say, I guess technically Captain America is still the first Avenger.
He's still the first Avenger, yeah.
Because when Miss Marvel came along, she was basically like the Avenger before the Avengers was a thing. She
started the Avengers initiative.
She started that little push.
Yeah, Captain America inspired Peggy Carter to start S.H.I.E.L.D. Captain Marvel inspired Nick Fury to start the Avengers. So yeah, it is in many ways, does still kind of reflect that. But also, you know, Captain America, he set up like Captain America. This one was going back to all the things we had already seen and just, like I said, putting them puzzle pieces in there. Mm-hmm. And I really dug that. I'll admit, a little bit is just like nerdiness. A little bit of it is just going, it's the thing from this movie, everyone. Except it's not just them like calling out. It's not like they just like vaguely mention someone's name in here. They actually show you, this is how this thing got to this place. Mm-hmm. This is how this thing got created. This is the importance of that thing. And little things that, like I said, I really like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's one of my favorites in the entire Marvel
Yeah.
Cinematic Universe. But I really hated that they gave, like, nothing to the Kree. Like, Ronan's entire motivation in there is that, oh, he's upset about the peace treaty that the Kree had to sign. He's a Kree loyalist, and he's a Kree extremist. He just resigned himself to the old school teachings of the Kree, and they don't go into what any of that is. And in this one, they give you so many details on what the Kree is, and then, yeah, you know it has been shown in the trailer, so this is not spoilable, but you know that Ronan is in here. And he's not here for much, but you can look at it and go, okay, all right, I'm seeing like I can see what he kind of became and give some more depth to that.
And you know, it's funny how you mentioned like this is basically like putting all the blank pieces to the puzzle because that's kind of how like the intro is, like in the beginning of the movie because, well, basically like, you know, Miss Marvel, like, part of her memories are kind of...
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, so we're basically, like, kind of in the same position as Miss Marvel.
That's kind of what she's doing as Captain Marvel.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I had to correct... Like, the first time it went by, I was like, not gonna say anything.
Sorry.
But yeah,
I'll just call her Carol. That's her name anyhow, so...
Carol! I have seen that GIF going around for all the, like, crazy conspiracy nuts on the internet talking about this film. And I keep thinking about, like, none of you are even pointing out the brilliance of using that GIF to describe these folks, that he's actually ranting about someone named Carol in that GIF. Like, that's actually what he's screaming about in there. It works so damn well. But yeah, so this movie is all about Carol Danvers, although it starts off, she believes that she is someone working for the Kree. She is a member of the Kree race.
Yes.
And they just call her Ver. Which I kept looking at that the entire time going, where the hell, what is that?
Is that like a Kree name or something like that?
Well, Kree names are typically always two words. It's
yeah,
always
like two
something,
syllables,
yeah,
you mean? Or?
It's typically always one thing, dash, another thing. So it's always one word with a hyphen in the middle. So I was like, Ver, that's not even like a Kree name.
That's why it's like Marvel.
Marvel,
yeah.
Yep, you got Marvel, Jude Law plays Jan Rog, like that's how like all their names are. Ronan, yeah. So yeah, it was very kind of weird to me. I kept looking at it, like, is that like a reference to something in the comics? I don't know that thing. But when they eventually do, I won't spoil it, but when they do eventually tell you where Ver comes from, I'm like, wow, I'm a dumbass. Wow, it was right in front of me the entire time. So she has to stop the Skrulls, which are these shape-shifting invaders, and they're going around conquering one planet after another. And eventually she finds out that they're on their way to Earth, and she ends up crash landing there, and that's where she meets up with a young Nick Fury, and he is just like, he's not a starting agent. Agent Coulson is in here as well, and he's a starting agent, which it felt good to see Clark Gregg in there again. I don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show, so it just kind of felt nice to have him back in the movies once again. But eventually, I keep wanting to call him Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury ends up learning that, okay, so there's aliens about us, this lady who crashed into a blockbuster, she might be telling the truth, and the two of them end up teaming up, and it becomes, I don't even want to say like an odd couple kind of thing. Just, she's a fish out of water, but both of them are warriors, so they both do have that in common, and they both do find like this instant bond with each other. And I gotta say, one of my favorite things about this film is I think everybody in here has really good chemistry with each other. I think everybody in this movie just has great dynamics playing off of each other, especially Nick Fury and Carol Danvers. I think that the two of them together are great. But yeah, as the story goes along, she starts to learn, like, okay, there's a reason I've been having, like, quick flashes of memories of a life on Earth that I don't know, and there is some kind of a mystery about why I'm from here and why I have these energy powers that the other Kree soldiers don't seem to have. They say that they gave them to me, but is that really true? And I won't go into too many details in there, but I really enjoyed this story. And I've been reading a couple of reviews, and a couple of people out there have said that it's good at the end, but the start is kind of boring. Like, they say it takes a while to get interesting. I wouldn't say that. I would just say it is kind of slow, and it is kind of quiet, especially compared to the other Marvel films. I really like that about this film. Because I'm not going to lie to you guys, I have gotten to a point where I go into superhero movies, kind of almost drain it now, because I'm just explosioned out. I'm just tired of just big fight scene after big fight scene. And I know that Infinity War was my favorite movie of last year, and that was nothing but just big explosion and big fight scene. But that's because everything in there was done amazingly well. And it was like the emotional impact of 10 years of movies all coming to a head. But now when I go into like a brand new superhero film, I'm just like, I don't want to watch like people just fighting nonstop this entire time. And this film, there's fight scenes in there.
But it's like it's all like slow motion and flashbacks, isn't it? Like
the explosions are like going flashbacks like that. But like the fight scenes in there, it's a lot more of like chase things. It doesn't feel. It's not like big powerhouses punching each other all over the place. But they're very small in comparison to the rest of this film. The rest of this film is a lot of people sitting down and talking. And that was so refreshing to me. I really enjoyed that this movie did just want to be quieter. It did just want to be like a much more personal story. It did not want to go in there and just kick the door down. It wanted to let you get to know these people. Let you see the character interactions. I really dug that about this movie. And there are some tense moments in here that don't involve really any action. There's like a whole escape sequence from this secret military base. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of like super-powered punching flying all over the place during that. It's all like running around, hiding,
like
escaping into this place, espionage kind of stuff. Yeah, I really dug that this thing felt so different from a lot of other Marvel films. Because as much as I love the Marvel films, they have hit that point where they need to start doing stuff different. And, Thor, Ragnarok, Black Panther, very different stuff. Ant-Man and Wasp, yeah, it was different in that it was like a heist thing, kind of, sort of. I mean, the first Ant-Man was a heist thing. The second one, I barely even kind of remember at this point. But, yeah, it was all right. So this one, I dig that it was a far more personal story. I don't know how you felt about the pacing of it.
I kind of felt a bit lost at the beginning because of, like, all the flashbacks and stuff.
I can understand that. Yeah, it does throw you into the deep end on this thing.
And it's like, when like the Skrull like start like messing with her memory and like going back and everything, is like, so they're basically trying to figure out what we're trying to figure out, what her backstory is and everything, like what's going on here.
And they're very confused as well.
Yes.
Why does this Kree have memories of Earth? That's very odd. The Skrulls in here, I gotta say, I'm kind of. I'm not going to go into too many details. We will go into details when we get to the spoiler part. As a movie fan, I love the Skrulls in here. As a comic fan, they are so different from how they are in the comics, and I'm kind of bummed because I really like how they are in the comics. But a lot of stuff in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is different from how it is in the comics, and it's gotten to that point where it's just like, dude, you can't hold on to that shit. Like, as long as the main character, as long as the protagonist, the important thing in the movie, still captures what made that protagonist important in the books. As long as they capture elements of, like, say, the storytelling in the books that were important to that story in the movie. That's the important stuff. Motivations and inspiration and, stuff like that, it's not that important as long as they can reshape it into a way that tells a really good story in here. I think that what they do with the Skrulls in here are actually great.
Yeah. I kind of felt like Carol was a bit flat.
At moments.
Like,
I'm very torn on Brie Larson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, the thing is, like Carol, she's supposed to be like, they're always telling her, oh, you need to control your emotions, but it's like, there weren't really too many points where it felt like she did have a lot of emotions.
It never felt like she was about to, like, explode.
No,
like,
exactly.
So emotional!
Yeah.
Aquabats reference for everyone. Sorry, I'm thinking about the Aquabats now. All right. Stop thinking about them. Okay. Yeah, it never really felt like she was, like, too emotional, but at the same time, like, you have to look at, like, she grew up, like, being told not to be emotional at all.
Yeah, that's
so it feels like any emotions might have been, like, too much for
Yeah, I
them.
guess so, but it's like when she was able to, like, finally release her emotions, I just kind of felt like maybe it could have been a bit more.
She still felt kind of the same as she had been throughout the rest of the film to me. Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. And as far as Brie Larson's acting here, when she has to be confident, I think she's great. When she has to be, like, fun, I think she's great. When she has to be charismatic and quirky, I think she's great. But there are moments in here where she's supposed to deliver a serious line, and it did sound flat to me. I kind of compared to how I talked about Belle Angel Alita, like the eyes in there. 90% of that film, I did not notice the eyes at all. They blended in perfectly. 10% of the time, it'd be like, ooh, whoa. Just like every now and again, and like I could count how many times it happened in that film on like 2 hands. But when it happened, it would take me out. Like, ooh, hold on. Same thing with Brie's performance as Captain Marvel in here. 90% of the movie, I think she is great. I absolutely love her performance for 90% of this. But then there's that like 10% of the time where she will deliver a line and just be like, that just sounded really robotic to me. But maybe that was on purpose.
I don't know, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, but then there'd be other moments where she would deliver a line that I thought sounded flat, but it was while she was supposed to be human Carol Danvers. I was like, okay, that's not, yeah, no, that's, like there's one moment in like the flashback, I can't remember the line, but there was one moment in like the last big flashback where she's figuring out her memories, in which she will deliver, and there's one line she delivered in there that just made me go, oh no. But like I said, 90% of the time, I think she's great in this film. Which makes me wonder if it was the director on this, because they got some indie directors to do this thing, and it does have like an indie feel to it, and I think that that actually really works for the fact that this wants to be a more personal story. And there are moments where she is like Bonnie, like there was a moment in which her and, I can't remember her first name, but Rambeau, in which they're like having like their big emotional moment together. I thought that worked great. And you can tell it's coming from an indie director who wants to like take the time to sit down and have people talk with each other. But, you know, I know a lot of other indie directors that's like hide all emotions and that's the way to be like really serious. And I'm wondering, are these those indie directors out there? I haven't seen their other movies, so I can't judge them on it. But it did make me go, that does seem like how indie directors like people to be serious. But I will say, Marvel is now swinging for the indie directors. Like, they are picking up, like, all these indie directors to direct their stuff. And
so it's definitely going to be hit and miss with like, some of them.
I still think it's a hit. Like I said, 90% of it I think is good. That's not a bad score. But, yeah, you do kind of have to point out, like, that 10% in there. 90% is still an A- on this. But yeah, you know, like Taika Waititi, he freaking nailed it on Thor Ragnarok. Ryan Coogler, he had recently moved up from indies, but he still had a lot of like indie director roots in him, and he definitely brought that to Black Panther. And with the team that directed this one, sorry, you guys are gonna have to forgive me if I start coughing on this. I went to the doctor's yesterday just for a regular scheduled checkup, and I spent the entire time going, all right, don't get near any sick people, don't get near any sick people. And right as I was about to leave, this little kid walks right up to me, all over me. So, yeah, that's coming. But yeah, and these guys, I think they did a good job too. Just, these guys, I felt like they needed to maybe like, get a little bit more lively in here. Get just a little bit more, like just dash more life into some of the moments in here. Let's see, what else to talk about in here without spoiling anything? Because there's a lot that I do want to talk about in here, but it's all for the spoiler section. I will say, as I said, I like that this film isn't nearly as action heavy as the other Marvel films, because you have a lot of other Marvel films that are super action heavy. And when you get to the big climactic finale, it's like, this is you know, it's not really that much more special compared to the other stuff that I've been seeing this entire time. At the end of this, it is, you know, we've seen it in the trailers. Captain Marvel goes Super Saiyan at the end of this whole thing. It felt awesome to me. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we didn't really see anything quite like that up until this moment. So it did have a really huge impact to me. I think that that actually played out incredibly well there at the end. It's one of the most satisfying finales that I've seen to a Marvel film, because they didn't oversaturate the rest of the movie with giant big special effects and giant action scenes. Also because, listen, I've been waiting a long time to see a superhero with nearly infinite cosmic level powers just go off. And she goes off at the end of this movie. I don't know, did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically what I expect someone with that amount of powers to do, pretty much.
True, but like I said, Thor's also got massive A-level powers, and, you know, we've basically just seen him punch people a lot. Like, I'm trying to think, like, the end of Thor 1, okay, he was really just kind of like, him and Loki were just dancing around that bridge. End of Thor 2, the hammer flying around was really cool, but aside from that, it was kind of just a bunch of goofy gags of him being teleported all over the place. Thor 3... that was actually pretty awesome. That was pretty cool. But again, it was a lot of like them on the ground fighting people. It was like, you know, him and Hela having like a fight with like swords and spears. I've kind of been waiting for the, like, I fly around and I blow stuff
Yeah,
up.
like actual, like, superpowers without weapons, basically.
I want to see somebody just shoot out some energy beams. And I got me some people shooting out some energy beams at the end of this. Yeah, I thought it was great. And, you know, a lot of people complain that a lot of these Marvel films, they do just have the really big, explosive finale, and it's all in the air. And again, even though this one, it is a big, explosive finale, and it's all in the air, I didn't feel that way because, like I said, the rest of this film, it didn't really have anything like that. Mm-hmm. But also, the entire point of this movie is that she's a pilot with flying powers, and she's stopping spaceships. This is exactly what I wanted to see at the end of that. Yeah, her flying up in the air, blasting the crap out of a bunch of things. Again, you see a brief glimpse of that in the trailer. You haven't seen squat. They really do go off. I know a lot of people have also been applying this film for the 90s nostalgia of it.
I felt like there was, like... I didn't feel like there was enough 90s nostalgia to be hyped about, but I'm kind of glad.
Okay, I feel the exact same way.
The only issue I had was when they started playing 90s music, especially, like, no doubt during the final battle. That just felt like
okay, good, because I didn't think that fit either.
No, it's like, maybe they were trying to, like, find other 90s music to fit in, but they couldn't, so it's like...
I don't know why, but I kept thinking about the Cranberries during that entire moment. Like, that just felt like, yeah, I would far rather be hearing the Cranberries. I don't know, there was a bunch of other 90s bands that were coming to mind at that moment, but again, I will say, I have zero nostalgia for the 90s, and this movie did just remind me of why I have zero nostalgia for it, because the 80s, we weren't, like, at that level of technology that we are now. Mm-hmm. So the 80s, you can't really compare anything. It did feel like its own separate time. The 90s, we have the technology that we have now, but it all sucked.
Yes.
So there's so many moments in here in which they are just showing off the sucky, crappy technology of the 90s. Mm-hmm. And I just kept looking at it like, that's why I hated the 90s. The 90s, it's what we had now, but way worse.
Yeah, it was a very awkward time for technology.
Exactly. The 90s was the growing pains era of technology. So, yeah, I have zero nostalgia for the 90s, but this movie, it didn't feel swamped in it. It did not feel like they were drowning you in 90s.
No, exactly.
I would actually be willing to say that Guardians of the Galaxy drowns you in more 80s nostalgia.
Yeah, I kind of felt like that too, but it's like...
but I'm okay with the 80s nostalgia. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is the only one where I was like, all right, pump the brakes a little bit on this movie. Like, I'm going to build a giant statue of Pac-Man fighting Skeletor. Shut up. We know you're from the 80s. We get it. So yeah, the 90s nostalgia I didn't think was too much. Samuel L. Jackson, as I mentioned, I love the chemistry that he has with Brie Larson. As I said, Brie Larson, it's only like 10% of the time I didn't really like her. The rest of the 9%, I thought she was great. And that 9% tends to come from when she is like bonding with other characters. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the connection that she and Fury have are great.
Like, maybe she's, like, better acting with another person?
A lot of acting is acting off other people.
Yes.
And yeah, you can kind of tell in this.
Yeah.
Also, as I said, it could be the director, so I'm actually very interested in seeing what she's going to be like in Endgame. Mm-hmm. Because I haven't seen the Russos not direct anyone well. So I'll be very interested to see that. But yeah, the relationship that they have is great. And also, we got to point this out. They made Samuel L. Jackson look exactly like he did back in the 90s. And we have seen them do the de-aging stuff before. We saw it with Robert Downey Jr. for a brief moment in Civil War, but that was for a brief moment. And then we saw it with Kurt Russell for a brief moment in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but again, brief moment. He is in like 50% of this movie. Like, not even like story-wise, I mean like screen time. He is there for like 50% of this movie. I was looking for cracks. I was looking in there for like, all right, where's the technology going to wear up? Where's that makeup going to start wearing out? Where's that wig going to start flying off of him? No, this is good. Marvel has perfected the de-aging technology.
Wait, what was Carol's best friend's name again? Or?
I know her last name was Rambeau. I don't remember her name in the movie because this is where we get into like weird Marvel continuity stuff. Because the reason she's in here is because her daughter Monica actually grew up to be another superhero who also, before Carol even used the name Captain Marvel, she used the name Captain Marvel. It went from Marvel, who was basically Marvel's version of Superman. He was this guy, came down from space, had superpowers, then he ended up dying. Then they gave the name over to Monica Rambeau, and she was a brand new character, and she just took the name Captain Marvel to begin with as soon as she popped up on the scene. Then it went off to the original Marvel's son, who I love that character, but he was a crazy nut job and should not be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then it eventually went to Carol. So they did a weird swap around with this thing in which Monica Rambeau, they de-aged her, had her here in the 90s, and they kind of in a weird way merged her with another character. Because from the Kelly Sue DeConnick run on Captain Marvel, which by the way, Kelly Sue DeConnick does have a cameo in here. It is brief. If you blink, you miss it. But she has bright fire red hair, so it's going to be hard to blink and miss her. If you know what she looks like, she's there in the movie. But she did a thing where in her book, Carol had a neighbor who had a little kid who loved Captain Marvel, looked up to her, and Carol called her Lieutenant Troubles. So they basically merged. They took that character, made her the young version of Monica in this film. And it's like, all right, in Captain Marvel 2, she comes back. It's 20 years later. Now Monica is a full-grown adult. There's even a moment in which Sam, I'm mixing. I almost said Sam Fury. In which Nick Fury in here says, well, I don't think you can go and see Carol again unless you get glowy powers like she does. It's like she gets glowy powers like she does at some point in time. So it's clear that they're setting up her to become Monica. But speaking as a comic fan, I did have a little bit of trouble with the fact that they did that because they now have this young version of Monica who is Captain Marvel's biggest fan. She loves Captain Marvel. She wants to be like Captain Marvel's. And now she's going to grow up and we know she's going to get superpowers. And all I can think is, so what's Kamala Khan then? Kamala Khan, that's literally like what she is. She is this girl who grew up loving Captain Marvel, wanted to be just like Captain Marvel, then gained superpowers.
Maybe like Kamala and Monica would be like best friends and they like big fangirls of Captain Marvel.
Well, again, then you do a weird thing where it's like, okay, but I know you're going to come back 20 years later and Monica's now going to be a full-grown adult. Kamala Khan is still a teenager, so how are you going to do, like, are they both members of the Carol Danvers fan club? What's going on? Like, it is a thing that does make me wonder, all right, shoot, you kind of like, well, they did not, I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying that they merged Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau together. I'm saying they took the Lieutenant Troubles character from the Kelly Sue DeConnick run, made her the Monica Rambeau character in this one, so that we can then get the adult Monica Rambeau in the next film. But I'm wondering how will changing her childhood affect adult Monica. And now it does kind of resemble a lot about the motivations of Kamala Khan. So you're going to have two characters with similar motivations.
We'll see when that movie comes out.
I'm getting way too into this, yeah. I'm thinking way too many steps ahead on this one.
Like, as someone who did not read the comics or anything, I felt...
You read Miss Marvel, though.
A little bit, yeah. But it's like, I mean, like, as far as, like, you know, the original, like, Captain Marvel.
The original stuff, yes.
Yeah, it's like, I felt like Rambeau and, like, Carol were, like, a little bit more than just friends.
Interesting. Interesting. There was actually, honestly, one scene in there which I was like, oh, that kind of feels like a little bit, but then I like patted that down. Oh, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
You know what? If Marvel wants to like turn Carol Danvers gay for the next one, go for it. I don't care. Go for it. They've already said that the star for their Eternals movie is going to be gay, so hey, man. I love that Marvel is just swinging way into this. Like, listen, we have made enough money that we don't have to really win anybody over anymore, so now we're just going to kind of like, you know, make movies for everybody out there. Awesome. Yay. We saw how much money Black Panther made. We're not dumb. We know that there are audiences out there that want these movies. Good. So, let's see. Anything else to talk about in here? I thought the villains were kind of a little bit flat in here, but it's not about them.
No, it's not about them. It's about Captain Marvel.
That's the argument that I make about a lot of the Marvel films when people say, well, the villain is kind of weak. It's like, the villain isn't really the point in a lot of those movies.
Like, especially if it's an origin film. Yeah, it's about how the character develops and becomes the superhero that we all know and love.
Yeah, like I said, Ronan the Accuser in Guardians was really flat. He was really kind of basic. There wasn't much given to him. And even though I do count that as a problem, to me, end of the day, that movie is not about Ronan at all. It is about a group of dysfunctional misfits who don't have a family, all coming together to form a family of their own. That is the longest I have ever seen Peach's tongue. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter if the villain wasn't great in that one. But we've gotten a lot of really good villains in the Marvel Universe, like back to back to back.
Yeah.
So in this one, I do feel like I kind of have to point out, yeah, they're not really that good here. But it's not the point in this one. Like, the point of it is Carol's own internal struggle, which again, I think is what makes this one feel very different from a lot of the other Marvel films. And it made it feel very refreshing to me. Pete, what have you got in your hair? Anyway.
She's been rolling in a lot of fluff.
You have been filthy. So, anything else you want to say before we give our score? Burp.
I don't think so. I mean, it'll eventually like go into spoiler territory.
We do have some spoiler stuff to talk about, yeah, so you can stay tuned after we give the score. But I'm going to give this one an 8.5, simply because, like I said, there's like 10% of this movie that I'm like, that's a little bit flat right there. And it's not just, I've mentioned like Brie's performance in here, but no, there's like 10% of the shots that aren't that great, but then the other 9% of the shots are really darn good. This movie was directed by 2 people. And it does make me kind of wonder, it's like, all right, which one of you did the shots in here that I didn't like? And also, there are, like, little bits in here that I wish that we'd gotten a little bit more explanation, because we get all these flashes of Carol's life, and at the end, she starts piecing it all together. I wish we had gotten a little bit more of her time, like, before she joined the military. Like, because it seems like her childhood played a large role for her as well. And then we don't really get a lot of that at the end. And that was also another thing that kind of bugged me about this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this an 8.5.
I'll probably give it, like, a grade lower than that, 7.5.
Really?
It's
No.
like,
Okay.
I think maybe it's because, like, I'm not sure if it's because I wasn't feeling that well, or because I just had, like, really high expectations for the movie, maybe a combination of the two, but it's like, I did feel like it felt kind of flat.
Okay, alright, fair enough.
Or, like, maybe I'm just so used to Marvel doing, like, big, over-the-top movies.
As I said, I found the fact that they didn't go big and just explosive with this one to be very refreshing, but I've seen a lot of critics out there saying, yeah, you know, it's good at the end, but it's a little bit dull up until then.
And it's like, I felt like I didn't mind it being a personal movie. I just kind of felt like it went more personal.
Yes, I can also, like I said, at the end, it felt like I needed to go more into her past. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I do wish that we had gotten even more details on her past. Like, maybe, you know, I don't want to, like, throw in there, like, well, I wish this scene had been in there, but, you know, she's getting flashes of her past.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, there's a moment where she goes to a bar that she knew. And that was nice, and she gets these flashes of that, but maybe she goes back to, like, her old home that she grew up in, and it's, like, abandoned now, but she's, walking around and getting, like, flashes of that as well. Goes around to the boot camp that she trained at.
Well, who knows? Maybe there'll be some deleted scenes. Or in
Deleted scenes don't up the grade of the movie. I'm saying in here, that kind of stuff would have been nice in here. Like, you know, they need a place to store the quad jet that they're at. Maybe she, like, goes to the military base that she trained at and she gets some flashes of that in there. You know, something like...
And I just kind of wish she had, like, more emotion, that's all, but...
Again, it's hard to judge, like...
Yeah.
Was that
a directing thing or an acting?
Was that story thing? Because remember, tap down the emotions, don't feel the emotions, so it is like, it's kind of like what the movie was supposed to be about. But as I said, when she does, like, man, when she's supposed to be confident, when she's supposed to be quirky, when she's supposed to be charming, when she's supposed to be working with people, I think she's really darn good in here. It's just some of the serious moments were kind of flat to me. So yeah, I'm doing 8.5, you're doing 7.5. Let's get into the spoiler stuff in here. So as I mentioned, they changed the scrolls around in here. In the Marvel Comics, the Skrulls are like this warrior race, and they do just go around conquering planet after planet. In here, it's revealed that the Kree are the warrior conquering race, which they are in the comics as well. In the comics, they are 2 warring races. Yes. And they're both, like, warrior races. Yeah. The Skrulls are far more savage, whereas the Kree are more technologically advanced. But in here it's revealed, no, the Skrulls are actually just refugees. They're just people who, they just want a home. They just want a place to live, and the Kree are trying to wipe them out of existence.
It's like, that's another, it's like that's another thing. It's like when it's when the Thor Ragnarok where they realize, oh, the good guys are actually like the bad guys. Like,
oh yeah. When they turn to the audience and go, this is all about colonialism, you guys.
Yeah, I kind of got that same vibe with this too. But
it still shocks me when people don't get that's the point of Thor Ragnarok. Like, they literally stopped to say that in the movie. There was a tapestry and everything, you idiot. All right, whatever, fine. No, yeah, it was just a dumb, funny movie about a rock guy. Yeah, that's what that movie was about. Yeah, it really shocks me how many people don't get the messages of a lot of these Marvel films. But anyway, yeah, it was very clear that they were like, we're making a message about stuff going on in the world, everyone. Which I have said many times, superhero movies are great ways of delivering messages about the world. Kudos to them on that. I'm not upset that they decided to do that. I am kind of upset that it was the Skrulls, because the Skrulls are such great villains in the comics. And I'm like, oh, you're kind of missing out on an opportunity or something. There's a moment where one of them gets shot in the shoulder, and his son is watching as he goes down. And I was like, oh, we're going to skip 20 years into the future, and now it's going to be like a warrior faction of the Skrulls who like think, oh, we can't trust anyone in here. Oh, this is good. No, everything works out. They're all fine. They're all happy. He's like, oh, okay, well. Again, as I have said, when you change stuff in the comics, if it's for the better, then I'm okay with it. And this did tell a very good story by changing the Skrulls around. It told a very important message in here by changing the Skrulls around. So I understand. I'm disappointed as a comic fan that, the Skrulls weren't the same as they were in the comics. But, hey, man, you can't really play that game too much when it comes to comic book adaptations. As I said, as long as the message of the protagonist and the stories and the elements of the story that made the elements of the original source material so special, as long as you can keep that stuff, then great. And they did. Carol Danvers is a character that's all about self-empowerment. It's all about picking yourself back up. That's what they put in here. And so I'm totally happy with that. And they also, despite the fact that Carol Danvers has a crazy-ass origin story that goes through like 9 different stages, they were able to streamline that as much as possible for this movie. So I am totally fine with how they were able to adapt her origin into here. Let me see, what other spoiler things? Oh yeah, we should talk about this. How did you feel about the revelation about the cat?
I knew there was going to be something up with that cat. Like,
there's something about that cat.
It's like, I couldn't tell, it's like, just the way they, shot the cat, just having the cat lurk in the background.
Really? Okay.
Like, that cat is up to something. I don't know what, but I'm gonna find out. It's like, I kind of thought
that darn cat.
Yeah. There was one point where I thought, the cat was a Skrull in disguise.
Oh, that would have actually been interesting.
Yeah, so it's like...
if they had kept the Skrulls as villains, that actually would have been really cool. That would have actually been a really cool idea.
But I was like, nah, people like this cat too much to make him a villain.
Much of a star.
Yes. That'd be like turning Rocket Raccoon into a villain. You can't really do that, Yeah,
I thought they might go this route because it is something they did in the comics, but I honestly hated when they did it in the comics because I just like the cat as a cat in the comics. And I do feel like it comes a little, they set it up, but I wish that, after they had revealed that it is this big alien monster, if, Carol had said something like, well, it was Marvel's cat and she just gave it to me. If they had said something like that to explain, how on earth does Carol have a cat from outer space? How does that happen? If they had said that was Marvel's cat, it would have been perfect, great, she brought it from space. Makes total 100% sense.
Well, there was that flashback where the cat was rubbing up against Carol's leg, and Marvel was like, oh, he likes you.
Oh, I totally forgot that, never mind. All right, I take it away. All right, okay, I completely forgot that scene. Never mind. Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, all right, then I'm 100% okay with it in this film. They actually did it better in the film than they did in the comics, I'll say that. But yeah, they explain in here how Nick Fury loses his eye, which I love that they have a cop-out. They have a fake-out for that in the beginning, where he's in the car accident, and he comes out, his eye is all bloodshot and red. I was like, is that how it happened? That kind of seems...
yeah, it kind of seems kind of weak.
That seems a little underwhelming in here. And then he's got the ice bag on there. It's like, did every scene from the trailer, did they fake all those scenes in the trailers of him still with 2 eyes? And he goes, no, my eye's fine. So I was kind of wondering if they were going to have this be Hot Tub Time Machine. I don't know if you ever saw that, but in the present day in Hot Tub Time Machine, they have a bellhop who is missing an arm. And they go back in time, and he has 2 arms. So they keep doing this gag over and over again, where it looks like he's just about to lose his arm, and then he saves himself at the last second. And everybody's sitting there like, is this how and then when he doesn't lose his arm, everybody just goes, oh, God. I thought they were going to keep doing that over and over and over again. I'm kind of glad they didn't. how did you feel about how he actually lost his eye?
You know, well, considering the cat is actually supposed to be like a monster, I guess it wouldn't surprise me.
Here's the thing. For anybody upset about, you can actually say that Nick Fury lost his eye from an attack from an alien creature.
That being said, even if Goose was a regular cat, he probably still would have lost his eye because of cat scratch fever.
Oh, that song is real catchy.
No, but it's like an actual
I know
thing.
It's an actual thing. Oh, yes. Yeah, there is that moment after he gets scratched and goes, I'll be fine. And then it cuts to the skull and goes, no. I wish he had said something else in there so I can just know, like, no, the scratch of a flurkin is something that only the truest word, like something like hyping up like how deadly a scratch from a flurkin can be.
Yeah.
Because they zoom in on him after he says it, like, no. Like, there definitely was more coming to that. And it felt kind of weird to cut it off just at that. But it does feel weak to me that that's how he lost his eye. However, I gotta still give him some credit, because after that, they have the scene where Coulson comes in and says, is it true that you lost your eye to an attack from a Kree soldier? I can neither confirm nor deny that. I like that the movie admits this was a really dumb way for him to lose his eye. Like, I can't be that mad at them. Mm-hmm. I can't be mad that that's how he lost his eye. When the movie itself is like, yeah, see, yeah. When the movie even like acknowledges like how weird it is that that's what happened. Like, I can kind of give it to you. Yeah, fine. I wish it had been something cooler, but whatever. It's fine. It's not that big of a thing.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. It's not the kind of thing that I'm like, well, I can't believe they subverted my expectations on it. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
No.
Let's move on with your life, people. What else in here? I really like the Stan Lee tribute at the beginning of this film. I thought that was great. When the credits were over, and I was like, oh, it doesn't say in loving memory of Stan Lee. That's kind of weird. And they was like, oh, they started the movie. With it.
Yeah.
They started the movie with it, which is a more tribute kind of thing to do to start the film with it.
How do you feel about the cameo?
I actually love his cameo, but I wish they had used some of that de-aging effects on him as well. Because he's reading the screenplay for Mallrats. Because in the 90s, Stan Lee was in Mallrats. So this is the only time in one of these movies that Stan Lee was playing Stan Lee. I kind of do love that. But use the de-aging makeup to make him look exactly like he did in Mallrats. It would have been even better to me, but I thought it was actually brilliant. I thought it was brilliant that Stan Lee was Stan Lee in this movie. I think this is like the one time, because there is that theory going around that Stan Lee in all the other movies is actually a watcher, and they did kind of confirm that in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah.
I like that this is the one cameo that you can look at and go, no, that's actually Stan Lee. That's actually really him. That was really cool. So I'm totally on board with that cameo. Let's see. I know there was other stuff. Oh yeah, we were talking about how great the finale is in her flying around blowing everything up. But I really love the finale between her and Jan Rog. Which, by the way, can we point out how freaking jacked Jude Law got for this movie? Dear God, I know everybody's talking about the fact that Brie Larson can now push a van by herself, which is very impressive. But Jude Law's biceps are the size of my head in this movie. And he doesn't even get to show off that much. It really seems like a shame that they had this dude work out that much to not really do anything with it. But I love that at the end of this, he is so clearly outmatched. And he comes in there and he goes, yes, but can you prove yourself by beating me in hand-to-hand combat? You've never been able to do that. Blam. I love it. She's like, I don't have to play your games, jackass.
She literally says, I don't have to prove anything to
That
you.
was a great line in here. I mean, you want to talk about like the messages of like empowering people in here? That is the perfect way to go. I was like, don't sink down to their level. Don't give them the satisfaction of that crap. You don't need to do that. I loved it. I love that so much. That was a great way to end this. And also, it's another one of the reasons why I don't really mind that the end of this, all the Marvel films end with big flashy explosions. This one doesn't. This one ends with her just telling him, shut the fuck up. The end. I dug that.
I have more important things to do, like getting these refugees to a new home.
Yeah. And it's a great explanation of where she's been for the past 20 years. That's all great. At the end of this, we get to see like a brief glimpse of her costume for for Endgame. I like that they did change it because as good as it looks in this movie, I don't want her to keep wearing a Kree uniform.
Yeah.
So just for like emotional reasons and for like storytelling reasons. So I'm glad that she isn't wearing one after this. That's really good to me. There are lots of great references costume-wise to the comics in here as well. Like their helmets, I thought were awesome little references to the comics. But let's see, I know there are other spoilery things that I really wanted to go over in this movie. Let's see. The Supreme Intelligence, we never get to see what the Supreme Intelligence actually looks like. I'm okay with that, because in the comics, the Supreme Intelligence is a giant green booger with tentacles. Yeah, I didn't. It's more of an emotional mind.
Yeah, it's like it's whoever you look up to the most, and for Carol, it just happens to be Marvel.
Yeah. So that was really cool. I really dug that.
But it also really makes the stand up between them more interesting, because it's like, oh, I've been lied to my whole life. But the person I'm looking up to, the person I'm taking orders from, is the person I've been looking up to my whole life. So this is going to be very confusing.
Yeah.
And very emotional.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, you want to talk about how the fact that they kept saying throughout this, oh, the Skrulls, man, they're so deadly because they can turn to anyone. And, oh, I couldn't face him that one time because he just looked exactly like me. And what is it that the Kree do? They use, like, the people you admire the most to, like, mess with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, I really dug that they were showing, like, oh, the hypocrisy of what they say versus what they do in here. I really dug that. Yeah, I cannot think of any other spoiler things to talk about. Anything you got?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we've kind of been through everything. Oh, no! Now I remember the last big thing. The Tesseract.
Oh.
I dug the crap out of the fact that they, like, showed how Nick Fury got the Tesseract. Which... I can't be entirely certain, but wasn't there a scene in Captain America where they show, like, the Tesseract being scooped off, like, the bottom of the ocean?
I thought there was.
I thought there was, but then again, did we see that with S.H.I.E.L.D. that did that? And also, actually, you know what? Even if S.H.I.E.L.D. did do it, it was Marvel who had it, but Marvel was working for Pegasus, which... They don't go into a lot of explanations of it in here, but they do basically say S.H.I.E.L.D. and Pegasus work together with each other. In Marvel, Pegasus is kind of like S.H.I.E.L.D. for interdimensional stuff. Interdimensional, unknown stuff from space, it's like S.H.I.E.L.D. for the totally unknown. So I dug that Pegasus was in here. But yeah, actually, even if they do, because on the subway ride back, I kept thinking, is that a continuity break that S.H.I.E.L.D. got it or someone got off the ocean floor in Captain America, but now it's in their hand? And it just hit me right now. Wait a minute, she worked for Pegasus, so even if the government did pick it up in Captain America, it still would have gotten into her hands. This showed how it went from, it didn't just instantly go from, like, sitting in a S.H.I.E.L.D. storage locker for, like, 50 freaking years. No, it was with someone else. This explains who it was with this whole time and how it ended up getting in the hands of Nick Fury. Yeah, as I said, this whole movie just putting in them puzzle pieces, just putting puzzle piece after puzzle piece together. I really love that we get the explanation of why he called it the Avengers Initiative. Mm-hmm. Because, when you think about it, there's no reason to name a superhero program the Avengers. Like, I love the Avengers. They're my favorite superhero team out there. I will flat out admit there's no real reason for them to be called the Avengers. Especially in the movies, except for the fact that Coulson dies, but they were going to call themselves the Avengers before that. I love that. It's like, no, that was Carol Danvers' handle. That was her handle when she was in the Air Force. So he created this as like a tribute to her, and she's the one who inspired him. Like, there are people out there that we don't know about with powers that we can't comprehend, which at the end of this thing, when you see her going nuts and just blowing everything up, you can understand how he would look at that and go, we need to get more people like that to save this planet. You can totally understand how that would inspire him to do this. It all fits so incredibly well. That's the thing that impressed me the most about this film. How they bring up so many little things from the history of Marvel and the stuff going on behind the scenes and it just fit into place so well. Like, it did not feel like they were cramming something in here that did not fit. Mm-hmm. It felt like it just slipped on perfectly. I love that. And that's something that actually the Marvel films do incredibly well anyways. Like when they explain in Civil War about Bucky killing Tony's parents, that fit in there perfectly. Mm-hmm. When they explain, there was another like secret thing in there when they have like the Ant-Man stuff of Hank Pym. Like, okay, well, yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. existed all this time. I'm sure there wasn't some other superhero person out there in the time. Oh, shoot, now we got Ant-Man right there in the 50s. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, anytime that the Marvel films try to, like, slide stuff into their history, they realize, yeah, there's like a couple of decades in there that we never really talked about. We can take full advantage of this. So I am really impressed with them whenever they're able to do that successfully. And this film did a lot. So yeah, as I said, 8.5, 7.5. I do think that it was a really smart idea to put this out right before Endgame because it does give so much more. Like I said, the big important part about Infinity War was you had 10 years worth of history going into that movie. And then this one went, well, you've got, a year worth of history going into this movie. This one came back in here and went, let's give you even more history in the details of all that other 10 years of history that you had before this. Yeah, it worked out incredibly well. Man, you guys can call me a Marvel fanboy all you want, but I am constantly impressed by how they have been able to set up, at this point, 11 years worth of movies. That really amazes me.
Well, I was just thinking, like, when you, like, this is kind of like the opposite of, like, how you felt about, like, Spider-Verse. Like, I wish it was more of, like, Miles Morales' story. I kind of wish this was more, Carol Danvers. Yeah.
Yeah, my one, for anybody who never saw our Spider-Verse review, love that movie, really do love it. But I felt like in the third act, when they introduced, Noir and Penny and Ham, I felt like they didn't get enough screen time, and the screen time that they did get did take time away from Miles, which it was important to get. I would have preferred more time with Miles. So I can understand this being your complaint about this film as well, except that this film, it does focus very largely on Carol. It's just that, yeah, we could have, she doesn't have memories. I would have liked to have seen more of, like, her recovering those memories. Yeah. Yes, I think that would have given way more emotional weight to this. So yeah. But thank you guys for tuning in. I don't even know what's coming out next weekend. A Marvel film just came out, and a DC film is coming out in, like, 2 more weeks after that.
Well, you can always go see Medea's funeral or whatever it's supposed to be.
Maybe I will. I don't know, I might have to break open that in case nothing comes out this week in glass and watch that. Yeah, no one ever wants to get anywhere near a Marvel film. And you've got DC like 2-3 weeks later. Yeah, that nobody wants to come out anytime right now. So I don't know what we're going to be reviewing next week, but come back to find out, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.